About 22 years ago, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences introduced an award that had been a long time coming, Best Animated Feature. The purpose of the award was to properly recognize, after several decades, an art form that has created some of the most memorable cinema the world has ever seen. Since the creation, though, some feel the award has failed to live up to its original promise, while others praise the award for recognizing that animation does have a seat at the big boys' table. Yes, animation has a long and complicated history with the famous Oscar statue, and the Best Animated Feature Award highlights this more than anything else. Before we discuss the Best Animated Feature Oscar, let's take a moment to discuss the history of animation at the Academy Awards first. The first Academy Awards ceremony was held in 1929 and celebrated the films of 1927 and 1928. The ceremony took place at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and the awards were handed out in 15 minutes, if you can believe it. The award categories consisted of Outstanding Picture, Best Unique and Artistic Picture, Best Directing Drama, Best Directing Comedy, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Writing Original Story, Best Writing Adapted Story, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Engineering Effects, and Best Writing Title Writing, which were those title screens older movies had, in case you didn't know. At this ceremony, there was no category for animation, and no animated film or short was so much as nominated for anything, much less won. It wasn't until the 1930s, when Walt Disney revolutionized the field of animation with the introduction of synchronized sound and the first full-length animated feature, that Oscars started to take animation more seriously. Specifically at the 5th Annual Academy Awards, which not only introduced the Best Animated Short category, the Academy members gave Walt Disney an honorary Oscar for the creation of Mickey Mouse. Disney himself would also win the first animated short Oscar that night for Flowers and Trees, which was the first animated film to be produced in full-color 3-strip Technicolor. As the years went on, Walt Disney would personally win 22 competitive Oscars, as well as winning 3 honorary Academy Awards and 1 posthumous award, with a total of 26 wins to his name. One of those awards was for the creation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first full-length animated feature film. For this movie, the Academy awarded Disney with a main Oscar and 7 miniature statuettes. This one-of-a-kind Oscar is considered to this day to be the nicest Academy Award ever bestowed, and if you want to see it in person, it is proudly displayed at the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco, California. In 1940, Disney caught the attention of Academy voters once again, when they awarded Pinocchio with 2 Oscars outside of the Best Animated Short category. Best Score for Leah Harleen and Paul J. Smith, and Best Song for When You Wish Upon a Star. 2 very deserving winners, as this is still some of the most memorable music to come from a motion picture, and the songs are still hummed and sung along to more than 70 years after first being released. Disney would also get a Best Picture nomination for Mary Poppins, a film that used an extended animated sequence in the film. It wouldn't win that award, but it did become the first film with animation to win the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Despite this, though, animation largely was regulated to the shorts and music categories. Gregory Peck famously campaigned for Disney's The Jungle Book to receive a Best Picture nomination, yet the film failed to receive one. Things would largely be quiet for animation when it came to the Academy Awards, yet Disney changed the game with the Disney Renaissance, which brought the art of animation to highs that had not been reached for many years. For several years, starting in the late 80s, Alan Menken would go on a winning streak, winning 16 Academy Awards for Best Song and Score for various Disney films, and even Hans Zimmer and Elton John won their first Oscars for The Lion King. In 1988, Who Framed Roger Rabbit won 4 Academy Awards in technical categories for its innovative blending of hand-drawn animation with real-life actors. In a strange way, though, despite the unprecedented acknowledgement from the Academy, many people saw Who Framed Roger Rabbit not only as a huge technical marvel, but as a genuinely great movie.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit is one of those home runs that Hollywood hits every once in a while. It's a movie like 2001 or Close Encounters or especially like E.T. that's a technical breakthrough and a lot of fun both at the same time.
Absolutely true. And again, the dominant reaction that I had, mouth agape, how did they do that?
And many were stunned when the film did not receive Oscar nominations for the director, Robert Zemeckis, or was considered a contender for Best Picture.
The other nominees for Best Director are Charles Crichton, A Fish Called Wanda, Alan Parker, Mississippi Burning, Barry Levinson, Rain Man, Mike Nichols, Working Girl. Those four men were also nominated by the Directors Guild of America for its own award. So was Robert Zemeckis for directing Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But Martin Scorsese replaced him when the movie's directors branch of the Academy made its choices. I think Zemeckis was robbed. I would have voted for him over any of the other nominees except Scorsese.
Well, the thing that Zemeckis had to do was to put together this incredibly complicated patchwork of live action and animation, and just as a traffic directing job, it was a brilliant piece of work, and then the fact that the movie worked was good too.
The film was nominated for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy at the Golden Globes. The Writers Guild of America nominated the film for Best Adapted Screenplay, and Zemeckis himself received Best Director nominations from the Chicago Critics' Choice Awards and the Directors Guild of America. Yet the film received no nominations for any of these categories at the Oscars. Was the fact that the movie was half animated a turnoff for voters? Even if it was, there was no denying that giving the film 6 Oscar nominations, 3 wins, and an honorary award for Richard Williams' animation direction was something to be happy about, and signaled that an animated feature may someday be honored in some of the high-tier categories. Few could have predicted that a few years later, this very thing would happen, from the very studio that had been propelling the art of animation forward all this time, Walt Disney Pictures.
Of 1991 are Beauty and the Beast, Don Hand, producer.
To understand the true significance of this nomination, we have to go back to the dire straits of Disney animation at the time, and we have to rewind a bit. The Disney Company had not won an Academy Award since Bedknobs and Broomsticks won for Best Visual Effects. Aside from that minor victory, the Disney Company had fallen on hard times since the death of its founder, Walt Disney. While Epcot was ultimately completed as a complimentary theme park to Walt Disney World, the theme parks had been in decline, their live-action films were considered a joke by the industry, and their animation division had been producing dud after dud, culminating in the box office flop The Black Cauldron, which was such a financial drain that it almost shuttered the animation unit altogether. Considering Disney had remained unchallenged in the animation field for so long, when their films started failing, the animation industry hit a low, with few other studios entering the animation field with their own movies. Although people like Don Bluth and Steven Spielberg made plays in the industry, most of Hollywood figured that if Disney wasn't profitable with animation, why should they throw their hat in the ring? Shortly after Walt's passing, many of the studios ceased creating animated short films, giving independent animators their first true shot at Oscar glory, and thus the Best Animated Short category went from featuring films that everybody had seen to shorts being nominated that no one had seen. When Michael Eisner, Frank Wells, and Jeffrey Katzenberg were brought in by Roy E. Disney to save the company, animation wasn't a priority for any of these men. While Jeffrey Katzenberg was tasked with cleaning up the animation department, he was much more interested in cozying up to Hollywood actors like Warren Beatty and Bette Midler, and decided to vacate the animation building for Hollywood talent. The animators found themselves moved to a trailer park to make their movies. The mild success of The Great Mouse Detective and Oliver and Company made a case to keep the animation department alive, but neither of these films were truly beloved. There was always the fear that they were one flop away from closing forever. What Disney Animation needed to do was find their voice and make a hit. They would find both with their next feature film. When The Little Mermaid was released in 1989, it signaled the return of Disney animation as a force to be reckoned with. What's more, the movie was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, Best Score, and Best Song for both Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl, with the former song winning.
Alan Menken and Howard Ashman for Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid.
I want to pause for a moment and say that it's weird that Part of Your World wasn't nominated, but that goes to show sometimes the Academy gets it wrong, even when they get it right. This was a huge deal for animation, as even the acclaimed song Somewhere Out There from Don Bluth and American Tail couldn't win the Best Song category. With these wins, not only was Disney animation back on track, but Hollywood was paying attention to animation again. While Who Framed Roger Rabbit did win all those Oscars the year before, the wins for Little Mermaid were for a movie that was 100% animation, and it solidified the fact that animation would be back in a big way and could be taken seriously. The best was yet to come, though. In 1991, Beauty and the Beast became the first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture, the highest honor any movie can get at the Academy Awards. Despite this nomination, the only other nominations the film would receive were with the music and sound categories. But at the time, it didn't matter. Animation was finally being taken seriously by Oscar. When the film won the Golden Globe for Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy, the first animated film to do so, there was hints that maybe, just maybe, Beauty and the Beast could win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. With so much support behind it, it was a win that would certainly make history.
Here it goes to The Silence of the Lambs.
Ultimately, this didn't happen, but the door had been kicked down. Surely it wouldn't be long before an animated film would be nominated and finally win, right? Disney certainly made it a priority by claiming that they were going to make a film that would outright win the award and the animation would be taken to new heights. Well, that's where things got weird. Despite the critical and commercial success of movies like Aladdin, The Lion King, and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, no Disney animated film would ever receive another Best Picture nomination. More progress was made with the release of Toy Story, which saw the Academy bestowing their first Oscar nomination of an animated film in the Best Original Screenplay category, as well as a Special Achievement Award for John Lasseter for directing the first fully computer animated feature film. But Best Picture was still nowhere to be found. The Golden Globes were doing a bit better, bestowing 2 more animated films, The Lion King and Toy Story 2, with Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy awards, while nominating Aladdin, Toy Story, Chicken Run, Shrek, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles in that category to compete with the live-action films for the top prize as well. By the way, I don't think The Incredibles is a comedy so much as it's an action film, but the Golden Globes have done this before. Yet the fact that the Oscars were continuing to snub these films for arguably less compelling films in the Best Picture category, like Four Weddings and a Funeral, The Postman, and The Cider House Rules, were becoming harder and harder to ignore. When Chicken Run was released and became an instant smash hit, many in the industry were wondering if this would be the film to finally break the curse and become the first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture since Beauty and the Beast. It had all the right ingredients. It was funny, critically acclaimed, emotional, exciting, and a huge box office hit. Surely the Academy would find room for this film, right? Well, no, they didn't. Instead, the 5 nominees were Chocolat, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Erin Brockovich, Traffic, and eventual winner Gladiator. While most of those are fine films, I could certainly see Chicken Run of being a much more worthy nominee than 3 of those films. And indeed, many critics and insiders were shocked that such a beloved film failed to secure a single nomination when many felt it was more than worthy of being considered for the Best Picture award. It is rumored that this was the straw that broke the Academy's back, though, and it was announced that the following year a new award would be introduced. Best Animated Feature, which would aim at highlighting the artistic achievements animation brought to the motion picture industry. It should be mentioned that whether Chicken Run had anything to do with the creation of the Best Animated Feature award is mere speculation to this day, but the news of an animation exclusive award was initially met with more praise than skepticism. The hope is that with the award, not only would attention be highlighted at the Academy Awards, but the hope was that the newfound attention on the medium would result in the art form being taken more seriously. Has the award received this, though? Has Best Animated Feature been the positive boost for animation that it was intended to be? Or has the award merely become a token gesture, one that gives Academy voters an excuse to not consider animation in the top category? Join us as we look at the Best Animated Feature category in a series where I discuss the films nominated, the snubs, and what the award has and hasn't done for animation since its inception. See you soon. Oh, and also, if you want to see a discussion by me and my friends Rachel and Tune My Heart on this very topic, click the link above and enjoy the conversation on our podcast iCritic Live. In the meantime, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.